the year voting consisting of two subcategories, domestic and international. The first motion was accepted, and although it garnered the board's support, it was tabled until the next board of directors meeting so they could get the magazine editor's input. Unfortunately, the editor at the time did not agree with adding an additional column and suggested that we integrate the bottles into the current can columns. Okay. The second motion was voted and passed unanimously. So his first motion is for us to reinstate a second subcategory for aluminum bottle of the year awards, resulting in once again separating the domestic and international subcategories. So I'll ask for a motion or discussion on trying to separate those out for the aluminum bottle of the year. Is there anybody who has any discussion?
I'll make the motion. We have to make the motion. He can't make the motion.
Right. That's what I'm going to ask.
I'll make the motion so we can get started on this.
Okay. So is there anybody else out there? Well, okay. So Beard Dave made the motion. Apologize. I need a second. Is there somebody that's willing to second to reinstate a second subcategory for the aluminum bottle of the year?
Okay, I'll second.
Clayton seconded. So I'm going to open up the floor for discussion first here on this floor.
I'll take the lead on it because I was one of them that kicked it off. Because I worked with the Hall of Fame at that time. The reason we kicked it off was because there were so few aluminum bottles being produced at the time. And we felt that there was just not enough out there to even warrant it. And I probably can't give them to you now, but we had facts and numbers to that according to the Hall of Fame, the aluminum bottle votes and nominations previously. And that's why we did it.
Okay. Any discussion from the Zoom community on this, trying to break out the two subcategories? Nobody in the Zoom world? I'll turn it over to Clayton.
So being a member of the bottle thing and doing the displays, I mean, internationally, there's tons now because that's what they do. I mean, I think it's probably 10% of their bottles are now local bottles. The US is the problem. InBev is basically the only major company that does them, and maybe one or two craft breweries. So that's what we really have to decide on. Are we penalizing the international people by maybe choosing a local InBev and not giving the international people their due diligence, which that chapter is basically probably 75% international members.
So right now, the discussion is to not break it out solely because the U.S. market doesn't have enough to compete with the international market. So Beer Dave?
Like Patty said, there weren't the number of cans there. It's an expensive package. Right now, with the can shortage going on, I would imagine that there aren't a lot of those even in design and production right now because they're trying to use those lines in aluminum towards other packaging and stuff. So I think the market of competition is going to dry up for a while. So I don't think this is something to consider at this time.
Okay, so right now the discussion is.
Toby has something too, Keith.
What's that?
Toby has a.
Go ahead, Toby.
As you see behind me, I collect bottles seriously, and there's about 200 of us in the country, well, in the world, in the ABC chapter. Yes, they stopped pretty much doing them everywhere because of COVID, but I'm assuming that's going to come back, and it's really hard to choose between the two when you have, when you have to go for international or current. I'm with Bob Renforth on this one.
Okay.
I'm just saying, if we're looking at it from a bottle standpoint, because even current cans are so minimally respected. We're picking one can out of tens of thousands of cans. So at least this gives you a little bit better representation of the cans produced versus the winner. And if we're talking about the cost of a trophy and a little spot in the magazine to put another winner, it's minimal.
So Beer Dave made the motion, it was seconded, but now I'm going to ask for a vote. So, and this time I want to make sure, because this could go either way, I'm going to make sure that we get the some clarity on exactly who votes what. So I'll ask for folks here first for it.
Read
So
what you are.
so the motion is to,
voting on.
yes, so the motion is to reinstate a second subcategory for aluminum bottle of the year awards, resulting in once again having separate domestic and international subcategories. That is what we're voting on. So you are once again voting to reinstate to have them as two separate categories. So hand the motions here to vote for this motion to break them into two separate categories. Yeah, this is a yes vote. So we have 2 yes votes here, 3 yes votes here. I have 4 for me and Mike. Okay. Here, Dave is the only one against right now. So Mr. John Finan, you are for or against? You're for. Okay. Mr. Frank Chrome, you are for. Okay. Mr. Tom Terwilliger, you are for. Mr. Stephen Miner, he is for, or you're just raising your hand? Okay, you are for. So I think we have everybody. How many votes do you have there?
Had 1 no, and then everybody else yes.
Yeah. So 10 yeses, 1 no, and 1 absent. Okay, so in relation to that, Mr. Renforth also asked as a second motion that I kind of agree with to bring up is to name the international subcategory the Juan Carlos DeMarco International Aluminum Bottle of the Year Award. Okay, so first I'm going to ask for a motion. Beer Davis made the motion. Do I have a second? So Mr. Clayton has seconded. So discussion. First, I'm going to open it up to the floor here. Discussion. Here, Dave.
Juan Carlos was one of the absolutely early on founders of the ABC group, and that, you know, he did a lot to really drive the whole excitement around this, you know, not just the aluminum bottles, but he really made a lot of us in the club appreciate international things that we might not have otherwise and stuff. And, you know, with his sad demise, this would be a great way to honor him.
Okay. Any discussion out there in the Zoom world? Nope, no discussion. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a vote. I'm only going to ask, since I think I know what the outcome is going to be, but is there anybody that is against? And here's the motion to name the international subcategory the Juan Carlos DeMarco International Aluminum Bottle of the Year Award. Is there anybody here against? Is there anybody out in Zoom world against naming it after Juan de Carlos? I see no objections.
I
So
have just one word. Can we wait to say what we're gonna call it exactly? Because we don't know what we can fit on the trophy. As long as his name is part of the award, can we wait till the wording?
Mr. John Fine has a point to make. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up also, Clayton. I think it needs a larger title. Something, we need to add a few more words into it.
Yeah, okay. He's being a smarty pants, but so,
Yep.
You know, Bob's thing, he pluralized DeMarco. It should just be DeMarco. It should end.
yeah, so it should be to name the international subcategory the Juan Carlos DeMarco International Aluminum Bottle of the Year Award. So we are going to vote to name it after him with the understanding that the trophy may not specifically read that. It will be read that way in the magazine and all other publications, except you're going to have to work with how much you can fit on a trophy.
I mean, because it's part of your deal too, right?
Sure, yeah. we're the
We'll
ones that
figure
pay
out
for it.
some wording as convention.
So the motion is passed as worded. So that's the way it's going to appear in the magazine and all other publications. Okay. All right.
Renamed him.
Yep. So Robert, did you have any following comments since you're the Hall of Fame and Can of the Year guy?
Yes, I do. Thanks. I just want to say that it's not a lot of extra work for me because the ABC chapter is the one that nominates the bottles. So it doubles their job. They have to nominate 5 US bottles and 5 international bottles. So they volunteered for more work.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So that should be again, but I want to ask anybody if there's any further new business before we move on. Nope. Okay. Yeah, okay. So old business, I've been asked, and this seems to come up every year, but I'm at the commitment that if somebody asked me to bring it up as old business, I'd be more than happy to bring it up. But the discussion for a discounted 3-year membership. This topic has been raised before. That's why it's under old business. Is any consideration given into discounting a 3-year membership because of the 3 years? Patty, what is your question?
It's a question to say.
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, I'm gonna be the first one to say, we're losing members right and left right now. Right now, we have a budget for this many people and this much money. If we discount it, what are we gonna do about year 2 and year 3? The
Yeah.
budget's already hurting. We're
Yeah.
already losing money. We're gonna need that money down on 2 and 3.
I support Patty's topic. Is there anybody out there in Zoom world that wants to bring up any discussion items before I even think of asking for a motion?
Yeah, Jim raised his hand.
Jim, go ahead.
I didn't hear what Patty said, but
I'm sorry.
I also,
I said we need the money in years 2 and 3, and that's why we don't need to lower it.
I can't hear it, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. Even with Patty's voice, the way her voice carries, Jim, she
Not a word.
basically said the number of members that we're losing, we can't consider losing any fund income for year 2 and 3.
Yeah, how many reasons do you want to not do this?
Yeah, no, I understand. And like I said, Jim, I'm only feeling I'm committed because somebody asked the question. So I'm bringing it up. So,
Okay. Well, but the one thing I would say is that we're not having any trouble getting renewals. Where our renewal rate hangs around 90% every year, and the financial reason for doing this is that you would say, well, we're going to get the benefit of the money and we can earn interest on it. Well, that's a bunch of baloney these days. There's just no reason to do this. So.
no, I fully agree, Jim. And like I said, I felt committed only because someone approached me to bring it up and we said we would bring it up. So I'm going to ask for a motion, but I think I know what's going to happen when I ask for the motion, but I just want to make sure that I go through the process. Is there anybody who would like to make a motion to discount the membership of 3 years at a discounted rate? I don't see any hands here. Is there anybody out there in the Zoom world that would like to see us try to do that? I see nobody willing to make that motion. So no motion has been made. The topic is over. Okay, so that was old business. I have 2 other old business items real quick. Retro cans. So Mr. Raleigh Douglas, and I don't know if he's still up or not, because I know he had some comms issues. I don't see him up anymore. So there was some discussion on considering to add a new category to can of the year that included retro cans. There's a lot of companies out there that are producing retro cans, but I'll be honest with you, I don't know if there's enough of them to make it a competitive category. So we were asked, though, to bring it up as an old business item because it was a carryover from last year. So I'm asking now if there's any discussion for consideration for a retro can of the year category to be added to the can of the year. Any discussion items here? No, go ahead, Beer Dave.
I just think that, I get it. Some brands like Fall City and Fairs in Kentucky and Wiedemann and a few others have come back, but at the same time, they're not making the same design or can or logo that they made years ago. There wasn't a Fall City IPA or a Fall City Porter, so it's a new can. It's a craft can. It falls under, the categories that are already there.
Even Country Club 16 ounce doesn't look like the old Country
If we
Club
were
can. So
gonna do a new category, I would suggest doing a craft can versus a major brand type thing. That would be the distinction, I would think.
Yeah.
If we were ever gonna.
So is there anybody out there in the Zoom community that wants to bring it up for consideration or further discussion? I don't see anybody moving forward on the topic. So I'll ask, but I think I know what the answer is going to be. Is there anybody that would like to make a motion to introduce a retro can category as part of the can of the year? I'm not seeing anything from the floor here. Is there anybody out in the community that would like to make that motion? I see nobody making that motion. No motion has been made. Subject dropped. Okay. The third old business item.
If I could, I'll
ahead,
make a
Richard.
comment. Retro cans are certainly welcome to be considered for the U.S. Can of the Year. So please, I encourage people to send in pictures,
Yep.
and I'll
Agree.
communicate that to Raleigh.
Yep. Agree. So the last item, and I don't know if I have enough of the right wording here, so I think I may need Robert to help me a little bit. And this basically was some of the way the wording was for the BCCA Hall of Fame voting. The discussion originally surrounded around us choosing 2 versus 1, but that only came at basically a second person would be picked if they received 2/3 of the votes. Now, the first year we went in to do this, there actually ended up to be a tie, and we actually ended up picking 3 people. The odds on that happening again are probably not as high, but the question is, do we go in forward with the understanding that we're not looking at the 2/3 votes, but we're looking at selecting 2 people, whether or not they get the number of votes or not? So in other words, if there's 4 people that are submitted or 5 people that are submitted for the Hall of Fame, those top 2 people are the 2 people that end up getting picked for the Hall of Fame. So that is where the verbiage breakdown is at. Do I need to explain that a little bit better, Robert?
No, I think that got it, Keith.
Okay. So right now, the verbiage is on the books and it's in the operations manual that second person only is picked if they receive 2/3 of the votes. The discussion would be whether or not we change that and get rid of the 2/3 votes and actually just say that 2 people get picked up. So I would like to ask if there is a motion to change the verbiage to no longer include just the 2/3, but actually just 2 people get selected for the Hall of Fame.
Can we discuss first?
Yeah, let's discuss first.
So I think we need to go back to what the original intent was by Frank, which was to get more than one person the opportunity to be voted in realistically before they pass away, because everybody's getting older. And it turned into a numbers game, right? That's what basically happened. It turned into a statistical anomaly that we were going with 2/3 of something. I think we should do 2 no matter what. And if the third one gets 2/3 of the vote, that's kind of where the statistic breakdown should come into play, I would think. Like this year where we had 3.
Sure.
Hopefully, I think we're cheapening the award.
Well, we have 50 or 60 people out of 35,000 members lifetime. That's a very small percentage of total members lifetime. So I don't know how that cheapens it.
Okay, so that was a discussion from the floor. Is there any discussion from out in the Zoom community on whether or not that should be changed or otherwise before I decide whether or not we need to do a motion or not? Mr. Mike E?
No comment for me right
Okay.
now, anyway.
I think Jim Tolley, I don't know if you still have your hand up from the previous discussion or if you want to put it up for this one now.
Put it up for this one. I think we ought to just leave it alone the way it is. That's the way that was, you all decided to do it last year. And secondly, I guess I would say, we have talked about this for how many years in a row and we still can't get it right. Can we ever get over this? Maybe, or do we just need a permanent spot on the committee list that we talk about changing the rules for Hall of Fame every year? I mean,
No,
that's what we've done for how many years?
I agree. What I wanted to do, Jim, was I wanted to make sure that everybody clearly understood as we had all talked about it, because I think I muffed up the verbiage when we had originally done it. I wanted to make sure that the verbiage was clarified and everybody understood it going forward. That's all. So was there someone else on the floor? You said 2 people, Danny. I didn't see who the other person was. No? Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask if anybody wants to bring up a motion to reconsider the current verbiage, which basically right now says 2/3 for the second person and only by 2/3. Is there anybody that wants to consider changing it? I see nothing on the floor here. Is there anybody in Zoom world that wants to reconsider the way that the current verbiage is.
But is the current verbiage the verbiage you messed up from the original intent that we have been talking about?
I don't know if that it was, I think the 2/3 was as we had kind of worked it through.
I mean, and this,
Robert would know that.
and this has nothing to do with obviously the posthumous or the
No,
veterans.
no,
So,
and Robert, just to clarify, I know you at the virtual convention business meeting or either general business meeting or the board of directors meeting, made sure that you asked the correct verbiage, and I just wanted to make sure that we all kind of understood the way that it was written.
Yeah, that is correct. I am referring to the operations manual, and that has the correct verbiage in it now. The 2/3 is in there.
I want to make the motion because I believe Frank's intention was to get 2 no matter what, every year,
Okay.
2 no matter what.
So Clayton has made the motion, and I see Frank has got his hand up. Frank, are you seconding the motion? Is that what your hand is up for? Danny, there we go.
Yeah, my original intention is like Clayton said for me, to have 2 people every year. If what was written in there was if you have to have 2/3 to vote for the second person to make them get in, that was not my intention. Now, if you want to have like a 2/3, if you have a tie for second or something like that, but my intention was 2 people a year. Occasionally, you might get 2 that tie for second. You might get 3 like you did this year. But usually, you're not going to have 2 people get the exact same amount of votes for second place. So my intent was, and that's what I was going for this whole time, was 2 people a year because we're all getting older. You're talking about 20 extra people over the next 20 years. And 20 years, a lot of us aren't going to be here. So
Okay.
it's not no big deal. And we keep going over the same ground after we've made a decision to have 2 a year. You know, it just seems like there's people that are unhappy with more than one person getting it regardless. So some people are going to be unhappy, some people are going to be happy, but we got people, you know, should be recognized. And I'm sure we all know somebody has done a lot for their club, their chapter, for the national stuff, and really hasn't been recognized. And I'm just saying 20 extra people over the next 20 years is not going to cheapen the thing. It's not going to kill us. And we get to recognize these people before they're dead.
Okay, so let me ask you this then, Frank. Are you going to second Clayton's motion? So Clayton made a motion that we vote on the verbiage to be changed, that 2 get voted per year, no matter what. No statistical data, no 2/3. It's a clean 2 people will, the 2 top votes from the overall voting end up getting selected for the Hall of Fame. Are you seconding that motion?
Yes,
Okay,
I
good.
am.
So he has seconded that motion. So now I have to open it up once more for discussion before we go into the vote. Is there any further discussion? No further discussion. Okay, now I have to ask for a vote. And because this is a sensitive item, I want to make sure that I count every head. And so I want to make sure, first off, who is for having it changed to the verbiage that states that you will select 2 members for the Hall of Fame, no matter what the statistical outcome is. Okay, so you are voting for 2 every year. So who is voting for 2 every year? Clayton. And that is it. Okay, so John Finan is 4. Frank Crone is 4. Tom Terwilliger is 4. And Stephen Miner is 4. Okay, so that's how many votes?
5 yeas.
Okay, who is against? Let me count that on the floor here first. So Beer Dave, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we have 5 here. Anybody out in Zoom world against? Okay, where are we at? 5 and 5.
Yeah, Scott is.
Scott, where is Scott Oglesby? Oh, Scott, I didn't see your hand. Please unmute your mic and tell us if you are for or against. You are for having 2 voted every year, so that's.
No,
Scott, thanks.
Yes.
Yes, you are voting for.
I'm for.
People voted, okay. So guess what? We're at 6 and 6.
How can you be at 6 and 6 when you only got 11 votes?
Well, yeah, you're right. So I apologize. So what are the votes?
6 yay, 5 nay. And
Okay.
the manufacturer one.
All right, so the vote is in favor of having 2 people voted every year for the BCCA Hall of Fame, no matter what the voting total is. So Robert, we will have to change the verbiage and make sure that you have that and it's updated in the operations manual. as such.
Yeah, I'll make sure that in the letter it states that it goes to chapters, and I'll work with Tom to get the changes for the operations manual.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry I had to bring that up again, but go ahead. It would be 40, yep. Okay,
It's gonna be an extra 20. There's
All
already
right.
one, so it'd be-
okay. Yes,
it'd be
ma'am.
40 people.
I don't know the rules of everything, but I always thought the president voted if he was regular time.
No, it's an actual vote. Yeah.
If
an
it's
actual-
tied, he gets
If it's
to.
Yeah, and that's where I thought I had to change things and then come back in, so yeah. Yeah, no, you're fine. Is there any other old business that anybody can think of that needs to be brought back up again?
Jim just raised his hand again.
Jim, go ahead. Jim Foley. Jim, go ahead. Yeah, can you unmute him, Danny? There
What
we
was
go.
the count on the last motion?
So
What was the vote on the last motion?
Go ahead, Mike, give him the count.
It was 6 yay, 5 nay, and 1 absent.
Did you hear that, Jim?
No, I didn't.
It was 6 yay, 5 against, and 1 absent.
Okay, what about you?
Oh, I
You have
voted
to vote.
against. I voted against.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Because you have, when it's within 1, then you have the option of voting to make a tie.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna do that, Jim, unfortunately. I voted against, so I don't know how I could change it and swing it any other way. Okay, so, any
Yeah.
further questions? Okay,
So moral business? This one-
yes,
This one is one that I just want to discuss again.
can you come closer to the mic so everybody can hear? Thanks.
So we want to.
That's not very close,
I'll talk louder.
All
So
right.
we want to discuss, it's came up again recently. We kind of tabled the discussion when we knew we weren't going to have convention last year about allowing walk-ins possibly on Friday and Saturday and trying to come up with some rules or some ways to do that. We're going to discuss the pros and cons. I don't obviously want to have a vote today, but I do want to instill the conversation within the next couple months so that we can make a decision and let people know either way if we're going to do it or not, because I think it's going to need to be advertised in the magazine if we do. So I don't know where we want to take it from here.
Are we at the point, Bear Dave, go ahead.
My discussion would be, I don't think this would be the year to have that discussion because everything's so in pencil between now and August when convention happens. And when it comes time, if we're in the same scenario where we are now today, the last thing we want is people that we're completely unsure of, that we don't know them from members or chapters and that kind of stuff. You know, we may not allow public in at all if COVID doesn't change much. We may not be allowed to allow public in. It may be a members only, and we validated them because we checked their temperature, whatever kind of a deal. It may be a closed meeting essentially by those that register. We just don't know where we're going to be with COVID.
So,
I would want to consider discussing this after we get beyond the pandemic, because there's just so much out there that we don't know.
So does it make sense though to push it a whole nother year though? I don't think we should. I think what we ought to do is put a mark somewhere on the wall where we make that decision based
Whether
off
we
of the current
implement it
situation
this
or
year
not. Right, whether we implement it or not, I think what we need to do though is figure out how we do the 2-day, if in fact we get to that point.
I just think this can has been kicked down the road for long before me, I think. And it obviously is a touchy subject with the members only type atmosphere that we're wanting, but with the lack of room to room and stuff going on, I just think the whole process of convention is changing and we need to find new ways to get people in the door, besides the people that are coming for the staged events.
Well, you know, one of the things, if you saw in Jim's report, there's an awful lot of things that the convention kicks into the general fund from a monetary standpoint, the $11,000.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Dave, these folks can't hear you.
Sorry, there's a lot of funds that the convention kicks into the overall operation of the club. There's the $11,000 that before we even have a convention, you know we're going to have a convention. We're already starting at $11,000 before we've rented a hotel space, a convention center, or anything. So that's already in everybody's registration. We have to divide that up amongst the attendees at convention. Then you add in commemorative can, you add in table and chairs and all of that kind of stuff. You know, the subsidizing of the banquet so that we can have the food and beverage process with the facility. There are so many dollars that we are taxed with as the convention committee to cover. And so the thing that I'm completely against is opening it up one more day to the public because it really cheapens the convention. What we're doing is we're kowtowing to people that don't want to pay for anything. They probably don't belong to the club. It's the same people that come to chapters that don't pay even a $10 chapter dues renewal. They don't buy raffle tickets. They just come in, they want to buy stuff and they want to leave and they don't really contribute anything to the hobby for that reason. I'm painting with a broad brush there with that, but it is amazing how just in the shows I get to regularly in the Midwest, it's the same people that each club is kind of dealing with. That this guy, complains if they have to raise their tables $2 because the club's hall rental went up. And he's like, this hobby's just getting too expensive and stuff. Well, the club isn't happy that they have to raise the fee for $2 to, when you look at what you get for your registration at convention, it's a pretty reasonable overall expense when you break down it. And we've continued to play with improving room to room. And it's things like the watering holes that we fight for with the hotel every year to be able to have that to encourage the moving around in the hotel. The purpose of moving the board of directors meeting to the 8 o'clock in the morning or 8:30, whatever time it ends up being, is mostly to make that Wednesday night more of room to room. Room to room currently at convention sucks on Wednesday night because people at 8 o'clock are starting to fold up all their stuff. They've already bogarted the lobby cart and loaded all their stuff on it. They've shut their door and gone to bed so that they can get up and be down in the lobby of the hotel at 7:30 for a trade hall that doesn't open until 9 o'clock.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the only advantage though is that I'm not a seller usually on the floor because I don't drag all my stuff everywhere, but what you're doing is if you're doing a 2-day walk-in is you're opening up more possibilities of vendors being able, I don't want to call them vendors, members selling stuff from their tables if more people have an opportunity to come in. So
I don't think you're being fair to the members that register.
okay.
Because I know there's quite a few that are members and don't register and then do all their business during that for the $10 rather than
Okay.
paying the
So-
50 registration.
So two things. The people that register get more than the trade floor. They don't get the trade floor. They pay for a table on the trade floor. So that's beyond registration.
Correct.
For registration, they get Jersey Shore, they get Craft Night, they get whatever, but they get the hotel stuff. That stuff is still there. The people that pay $10 on Saturday don't get any of that. They get the opportunity to walk in and purchase them. So what we're talking about is one more day of that, giving that up for members only. Well, what is the trade floor for? It's for everybody to be in one place so we can sell stuff without going up 14 stories of rooms that people are at the restaurant, or they're out at the brewery, or the baseball game, or a meeting, and no one's ever there at one specific time. So if we make them act on Thursday, then trade floor is awesome on Thursday because everybody's gonna make a point to get what they want. And then Saturday, Friday and Saturday, you open it up. So now everybody else who doesn't want Craft Night, doesn't want Jersey Shore, has the opportunity to go buy stuff that we've been hauling around for 20 years.
So Clay, let me continue to try to advance the conversation. I want to at least make sure that I give folks an opportunity out here to discuss further. So if you've been having a hard time hearing it, I apologize, but the discussion revolves around the opening up the convention trade floor for 2 days worth of walk-ins. In other words, not just Saturday now. We're talking doing it on Friday and charging $20. That $20 covers you to be able to walk on the trade floor both Friday and Saturday. So Mr. Oglesby.
My question, if Ron Jones is still on, is how much problems do we have with theft when we let the people in?
And unfortunately, Ron Jones is up, but neither his camera is working, and I don't know, Danny, can you try to request him to unmute his mic, see what happens? Okay, Beer Dave can answer that question for you, Scott. Beer?
It absolutely skyrocketed. Saturday is when we have most of the filtered from tables.
Hey, we can't hear him at all.
Yeah,
No.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm trying to talk, I couldn't even hear Patty, so I don't know where the mic is in the room, so, okay, all right. So the problem is on the day that we have the walk-ins, that's when we have most of the theft. That's when we have absolutely things pilfered from tables. You know, those first 2 days, you know, I mean, if you remember Milwaukee, probably nobody got to every table in Milwaukee. Convention in St. Louis is going to be on the size of what we had in Milwaukee. You as a member registering and attending convention should demand and want those 2 days that are amongst just the members for you to get around and peruse all the tables and see the stuff in that. I would hate for you to spend all the money for the hotel room, the registration, the table, and all the stuff getting to convention, and you come walking in and there's that one pinnacle piece that you want in your collection, and some guy pays $10 to come in on Thursday, walks over and buys that piece while you're still setting up your table. You didn't get a chance to get that piece at all, but this guy who didn't do anything probably isn't even a member of the club, and he just goes walking around and you know, he's won the piece that you've been searching forever. And you know, I mean, there's a reason why you want to protect the sanctity of convention. Number one, financially, it will start to just punch holes in the bottom of the ship, and eventually convention won't happen because we won't have enough people attending to be able to cover the expenses that convention is to host. You need to be able to have an abundance of attendees and divide it up over all those people that come and register and pay that so the convention can happen. It's an expensive undertaking. You guys approve the budget year after year. It's not $50 that we're throwing out there. There's thousands of dollars that we're on the nut for. We have to cover that. And I don't think people are seeing all of that. They're seeing, okay, it would be great to see a line of people at this guy's table or whatever and stuff. If they would spend some time doing some better marketing on when they're going to have their room open, and you know, Wednesday night at 5 o'clock, my room will be open till 9 o'clock and stuff. Post flyers on the bulletin board. We give people all kinds of chances to promote their room to room and what they're having and selling and stuff. And you know, if room to room sucks, I can't help that. There's nothing that we can do And room to room could suck. And we could also have not many people show up. The other thing is any of you that have worked that table on the $10 table, that $10 that we're asking those people to pay, it is like we are asking them for their firstborn and $1,500, not $10. The fights and the battles that go on over the fact that people don't think that they should even have to pay anything to go on to the trade floor. What's going to happen is convention as we know it will quickly go away, because after they're allowed to do it 2 days, they'll say, well, why can't we just throw all 3 days open and just let everybody come and be on the trade floor at that point? And those few of us that choose to set up and spend the money and rent a hotel and buy a banquet and a commemorative shirt and stuff, we'll just cover the nut. So all these people that want to spend $30 to attend convention, that they can do it for $30. And then they'll want to know, will the $30 go towards my renewal fee next year? But where does it end?
I got it, Beer Dave. We need to move on. I don't think we can further the conversation, so I hate to cut you short, but I think everything everybody's got you. I don't think we can further the conversation. So there is going to be no motion or further discussion related to the discussion on potentially having a 2-day walk-in. I think everybody kind of made that discussion fairly clear. So, okay, thanks. All right, any other old business that we need to take care of? All right, we're going to move on to the committee reports, and we're going to try to move as quickly as we possibly can. Okay, so we're going to first, I want to turn it over to Dave, because I know Dave is no longer the chapter chairperson. Carrie, unfortunately, is here. I think what happened as part of the read ahead was Carrie provided what you had provided Dave as your pass on. Do you have anything in addition to what you currently provided as part of the read ahead?
Not really. I have a couple of items. One of the things I requested from Kevin Caius was the current status of the brewing industry partners. For 2020, we have 42 members, and going forward, I think 29 of them have been renewed. So I passed that information on to Carrie. One of the brewing partners is Brewport. They're sponsored by the Craft Brewery Collectibles chapter. I know some people in that chapter, and I'll try to get them to sponsor that again.
Okay.
So that shouldn't be any problem. The only other thing I'm going to add is we talked about this way back towards the beginning of this year about keep sponsoring your local breweries, but also, you know, my refrigerator's overflowing with curbside pickup stuff now. But one of the other things to keep an eye on is some of the interesting things that either the breweries or in our case, the New York Brewers Association are sponsoring. We have no live brewery festivals this year. So the Brewers Association stepped in and they're sponsoring virtual beer tastings. So if you sign up for one of these tastings, you get beer delivered to your house, and there's a Zoom session that's set up, and you get to participate virtually in that. You meet people from the brewery, virtually of course, and they give you a tour of the brewery, and you get to sample the beer with them. It's a lot of fun, and it's a good way to sponsor, keep the breweries going forward. And as a matter of fact, they did this in the spring. There was, I think, one session per month for a while that got suspended in the summer, and it's now coming back in the fall. Today, interesting, after this meeting, I think at 4 o'clock, the first one of the fall. It's 3 breweries from the Hudson Valley of New York. I'm ready to drink a beer or two. So, but the bottom line is keep an eye on what's going on so you can keep sponsoring your breweries.
Okay, and like I said, thank you very much for your past service on trying to get the committee through and successful. You've obviously done that. And then I would just ask that you work closely with Mr. Kerry Williams to keep
Will do. I can give him all the information he needs, hopefully.
Super, thank you. Mr. Beer Dave, and I would just ask you that, Mr. Beer Dave, you come up close here, either to that microphone or to this microphone so that everybody can hear you, because I know this is going to be the most attentive portion of the rest of this afternoon we will potentially have, okay?
Right.
Go ahead, Beer Dave.
All right. Well, first off, thanks to the board for approving the committee for this year. we'll serve you guys with duty and honesty as we always have. Couple of things. At this point, there are no rooms at the Marriott. We have exercised all of our options at the Marriott, and we are in the process of taking the people from the waiting list and we are moving them into the second hotel. We have not sent out an e-blast or any kind of information about the second hotel, because currently, if we did that, people that did the due diligence and have been on the waiting list and we are taking care of them would not get a chance to be taken care of, because they weren't, we can't just put a link out there and have everybody come and scarf up that link. So if you do need lodging for convention and you haven't sent an email to beerdavidfuse.net, currently you're SOL. So I can't make that any more abundantly clear that you need to, because right now we are going through the waiting list one person at a time. As of today, I've gotten 7 more emails from people that were on the waiting list thanking me for taking care of getting them lodging for convention, and that we are absolutely doing our damnedest to get that. We think that we will probably even need a third hotel right downtown in the same area by the time this all kicks off, because of the amount of people that are anxious to attend convention. So if you need lodging at convention, please send an email to beerdavidfuse.net so that we can take care of your needs. We have no way of knowing if you need a room. It's up to you to let us know that you need a room, because we can't just put our credit card out there and hold rooms in case you decide you might want to come to convention.
So I'm sorry, real quick, Dave. So I would just ask that Don, when he pushes information out for the next chapters matter, that he emphasized to the chapters to get the word out as much as possible to help the members, their members, understand where we're currently at right now.
Yeah, and we need the email because we need to have a record of who it is, their name, and that. And we need you to send your name, a cell phone number, correct information, your BCCA number. I can't work from an email that I can't even understand what it is, and it says, put me on the list for a room.
Mr. Joe Smith, right?
I have no idea how to help that person. And so when the first e-blast went out, I had a lot of people just say, put me down for a room. I don't know what night they need lodging. So it's up to the customer to also inform us so that we can help them. I had to send out probably 50 emails after the e-blast back to people that would just said, put me down on the list for a room.
Yep.
So you are still taking emails and putting them at the bottom.
And working our way down through it. And we're doing it on a first come, first served basis because those people did it right. And so we are doing our best to make sure we can get as many people in the proper hotel as we absolutely can. We're also negotiating with the second hotel to get additional rooms. But right now, they're holding up the first batch of rooms that they've given us. And that's another reason why we can't send the link out, because we don't want to use up.
Are you able to share the name of the second hotel?
No, because with the internet and that, people will go out. And
Okay, I just.
One question, do you foresee people just overbook their stays at the first hotel and that rooms will be opening up the closer we get and people's travel plans become more solid? And
I've already had one collector tell me that they will keep their reservation right now in the second hotel, but the threat to me was they may not attend convention if they can't get in the main hotel. So I said, well, you will be the first guy on the list that if a room becomes open in the Grand Marriott. But the problem is, I can't have everybody now sending me threatening emails.
I get it.
And I'm supposed
No,
to.
and I'm not gonna say that, but I foresee a lot of rooms opening up because people took the whole week just hoping that their plans or plane flights or whatever would work
Correct.
out.
But the other thing is if COVID ends, Marriott's going to want to do everything they can to take care of the airlines and everything else and stuff. Right now, we're dealing with the fact that there aren't a lot of air flight crews and stuff. So there are a few more rooms available, and we just need to do our best. But we absolutely, the Marriott will not cancel any of our existing reservations right now. without my giving them first refusal.
Okay.
Those reservations will go to me to capture and reuse if we're able to.
That's kind of.
So that's why, if you want lodging and you don't have it yet, you need to send an email to beerdavidfuse.net in case you didn't get that straight.
Mr. Scott Oglesby has a question.
Yes.
Dave, Mike England sent out that same email and I replied to him. Did that
Yeah,
go
Mike
to you?
is a member of my team. Mike is helping me to capture all of that. I was copied on that email that you got.
Okay.
Yeah, so you are somebody that we are taking care of. You may even have already gotten something by now.
Okay. Because I was thinking that, okay, if we can't get through the BCCA, I don't mind paying the extra money and just going through Marriott because I got status with them.
I am a titanium Marriott and I can't get more rooms. You can't
Okay.
get higher than titanium. They're not selling any other rooms right now.
Okay.
I've lots of options.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right. Another thing is we are so hoping that we absolutely make convention happen and push on through it and everything works and stuff. But what I'm asking everyone on the Zoom, everyone in these two rooms and that, to please help, because you know, it's enough of a battle getting them to wear their badge. If it comes around that we have to wear masks, I mean, and we're going to deal with things, we may not be at capacity to where we can't put more than 4 people on an elevator. We're in a high-rise hotel, so I just need everybody in this room to understand that there's going to be some challenges. And I get it. There is a group of members in our club that love to play the victim. They love to fall on the ground and have everybody run over and pat them on the head, make sure they're okay in that because they've been offended. Well, you're just going to have to get over it. The rules are going to be different because of this, and we need to abide by whatever rules we're subject to under this. And we're going to be dealing with federal, state, and local laws. And I need everybody in this room to help us to get people to understand it, and because it's going to be different.
So Beer Dave, I'm sorry. I'm asking this question more so in the previous discussion that we had and as part of the finance committee on what short window we may or may not have to make a decision for increasing the membership if the decision is to not have the convention. So the simple question is, are we going to have a better visibility this year on us to be able to make a decision on committing to the convention or not committing to the convention like we did this last year?
Yeah, I mean, we waited as long as we possibly could to cancel it this year. We will do the same thing next year. Our real intent with the committee is to really figure out a way to make it work. And that's why I'm asking and pleading with everybody in this room and on the Zoom to please understand, and don't be the guy that comes up to me and is pissed because you have to wear a mask and a badge. That's not my problem. That's to attend convention. And I'm asking for everyone in this room and on the Zoom to understand that we're going to need your help to be adults and big boys about all of this. So button up your pants and wear your big boy clothes because you got to be an adult at convention this year. I don't know how else to tell you that.
Dave, I got a comment.
All right.
This is Scott. Here in Alaska, to be able to do anything, you have to have a negative COVID test at the airport or undergo a 14-day quarantine, and the hotels aren't letting you in without a negative COVID test.
God, St. Louis is not in Alaska. I'm sorry. We need to keep
I know,
on.
but would it be something that would be beneficial that we required all our guys to get negative COVID tests before they go on trade floor?
Right now, Scott, we're almost a year away from convention, and things are going to change. We hope for a vaccine. We hope for all kinds of things. But what I'm asking is, whatever rules we're under, it's going to take this group to make sure that we're able to do it, because we can't be shut down. We can't subject ourselves to liabilities and stuff like that, because it's not something that the club has really the ability to afford if we have a bunch of carefree idiots that think that, I paid my registration fee, I'm allowed to do whatever the crap I want. That's not how it's going to flow. And that's just the way it's got to be, because we have to, we need to make convention happen. So,
Are we going to say, in certain instances in the past, when people have not complied with the rules at the convention, they've been asked to leave?
we would do the exact same thing because once again, they are still, it's just because you paid your registration doesn't guarantee that you get convention. It guarantees you the right to follow the rules and attend convention. If you choose not to follow the rules, we have the right to refuse you service, just like a restaurant or a bar or anything else. Okay, moving on. So with that being said, we absolutely are going to do our damnedest to push ahead and make convention happen in August of next year. And with that being said, we have also been brave enough to start negotiations with Atlantic City and Norfolk on where we're going to go for Convention 51. Both properties know that we are not in a sprint to get an answer in a decision made, but both of them have been sent new contracts because we've rewritten the contract to be COVID understanding in that, which, we had some verbiage in there, but not as strong as it needed to be. So we are just starting those discussions with those properties at this point. We have not made an ounce of a decision on one way or another where we're going, but we are absolutely in negotiation with either Atlantic City or Norfolk for Convention 51.
So in relation to that, Beard Dave, I would say the folks, and I know Pete's out there, and I don't know if anybody, maybe Al
I'm sure Al
Hashtag is up there. So normally those folks try to make an effort in getting the chapters prepared. They try to get a hospitality room at the convention. I would think that it's no fault that they don't end up having a hospitality room this year at convention. We shouldn't obviously make them try to work extra hard since we're not going to be able to make that decision yet, correct?
Right. And, if things change, come spring or whatever, and it looks like, the vaccine's working, if we have one and stuff and all of that, we'll absolutely ramp up our decision-making and get that done, because we don't like working in pencil any more than the rest of the world does.
Okay.
We would love to have some ink on a next contract and get moving on all of this, but we don't want to tie financially the club to something that's not going to happen and have it come back and bite us. I mean, we were lucky to be able to salvage everything we did to where it didn't cost the club this year to be able to turn around and do convention again. I don't think we can do that a third time.
Yep.
So, all right, with that being said, are there any other questions regarding convention?
So first I'll ask on the floor here, are there any questions related to convention? Is there any questions out in Zoom world related to convention that you'd like to ask Beard Dave while you have them on the floor? I see nobody. Okay, all right. We're going to move on. Thank you, Beard
very
Dave.
much.
Thank you. So we're going to move on to magazine. I know that Joe print isn't up. Mike, would you like to read his read ahead and try to make it as abbreviated as possible?
Absolutely. He said, we need to start thinking now about the ramp up to St. Louis again. We're working on the layout for the January, February issue this week. That's only 4 issues from convention. What does the board or the officers see that the magazine committee needs to prepare for or take into account as we reboot for 21? The November issue of the beer cans and brewery collectibles will be uploaded to the printer by the time that we read this. A somewhat odd issue in that there was no visual convention wrap-up content, which is normally the issue that would come out in. Pages were prepared for the Andrews Butterball Awards for the editorial excellence, as well as the Hall of Fame Can of the Year and other awards and notifications in a much bigger way than we've done in the past. News section is being included in the magazine now, a list of our new members. Actually, that's not new. I've seen that back in the 70s, digitizing some of these old magazines. But yeah, quite a list for November. I think you'll be surprised. Kevin Kaios is providing the names, and we hope to add into the returning previous members as also. It's a very positive thing to do to show forward movement in the club membership. Good news from our printer. There are no anticipated labor, paper, or postage cost increases anticipated for 2021. Respectfully submitted, Joe.
So I would just ask that, hey, Danny, hey, so could you make a spot somewhere on the page, either as a new news item or otherwise, as the magazine gets released, that we somewhere up on the front page of the webpage broadcast who those new members are, so that people then can at least get somewhat familiar. Is that something we could do, Danny?
Yeah, sure. I can do
Okay.
anything.
Okay, good. What I want to do is, I don't want to steal Joe Prince's thunder in the magazine, but I would like it be posted up there so that members, when they do go to the webpage, they see it after they've been released out of the magazine. Okay, no further questions on the magazine. Any magazine questions out there in Zoom world? I don't see any. Patty?
Yeah, you and I corresponded, Joe and I corresponded about a low number, member that had. a low number.
Yeah.
And I know that Joe's response to us was that he at first had started having the one-page notice about the collectors, or one page about the collectors.
Yeah.
That kind of, his statement was they kind of fizzled. I
Yeah.
still think it'd be nice if we could try to get some of those new members kind of highlighted again in the magazine. I mean, those old members highlighted in the magazine.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of old newspaper articles back there on some of those folks. I know there is. Is there somebody we should maybe tap on that would have a good capability of kind of helping push that along? You're dead.
I know Rich D'Souza, he just did his damnedest to get some of those people to tell some good little anecdotes,
Yeah.
and stories,
And I owe him some
and
still.
that kind of stuff. And I was gonna say, there's a lot of people that still owe Rich stuff, and
Yeah.
that's why it's kind of peeled away from the magazine, because if there isn't an article, there can't be one put in the magazine.
Yeah.
So if anybody's been reached out by Rich, or you know some other collectors and that, you could send a Rich to tell.
So Beard Dave is just trying to emphasize it. If Rich D'Souza has reached out to you and asked for you to come up with something small about your favorite memory from conventions, if you could just kind of work that through. But Patty, it would almost take me to ask somebody to be a full committed person to kind of help with some of those older, because you'd have to do some research and stuff. Okay, yeah. Let's
You
what
might
I'm-
have to call some of them on the phone because they're probably not answering.
Yeah,
Well,
probably.
We had this person's phone number.
Yep. Okay, moving on. Marketing, Mr. Charlie Smith, the floor is yours.
Thanks. I'll just hit the high points. The big stuff is we did issued a survey, had a great response rate. It was like 565 respondents, and it was over technology. We got a lot of good feedback, and I'm sure implemented some of those. Right now, there's a survey out there about going to shows in the COVID era. So far, we've had 600 members take the survey, so we're getting a really big response rate. What is most interesting about this survey, I'll give you a little bit of a preview, is pretty much across the board, 3/4 of the people would go to a local show as long as there were safety precautions, masks, distancing outside, something like that. However, when it comes to the question I asked is, would you go to convention if it was held today? That's a 50-50 split. And the follow-up question to that was, if you don't want to go, why? And the biggest response is basically, I'm not going to go anything that big in the COVID era. I'm too old. I'm high risk. I don't want to die for my collection. So just take that for what it is. And once we close the survey out on the 15th, I'll send Keith and the board all the information. Sent about 22 e-blasts out. I've sent a couple more since I've sent this read ahead in. That's working very well. We uploaded the new roster information into the Constant Contact. And I'm looking for someone with some graphic skills to help me take my concept for a third type of banner from concept to production. So if anyone knows anyone that has some good graphic skills, please send them my way. And that's it, barring any questions.
Okay, any questions on the floor for marketing, Charlie Smith? Anybody out in Zoom land have a question related to marketing with Charlie Smith? I don't see anything. Okay, moving on. Production, product development team. Obviously, Bruce Gregg is not here, but I will have Mike read off it and provide any additional details.
Product Development Committee, USBC Volume 1 and 2 is still progressing on Volume 1 and Volume 2, but at a reduced rate due to COVID-19 restrictions. The volume of this work involves traveling where the cans are present, and that's exactly what it's all about. And that ties back in what we were talking about with spending more money for product development that we're gonna need to be doing, because we're getting down to where we're, as Jim Wolf called it, the low hanging fruit has all been picked on the volume 1 and volume 2. We're gonna start needing to be traveling to where the cans are to get the last of them. So there's gonna be some travel money and whatnot spent on that. Jim Wolf still has cans in his personal collection that he's working on. He still is. He's finishing up a lot of that. So the overall focus is there, but the output is not what we prefer recently. It's been pointed out that search parameters between the various categories are not exactly the same. Some of that goes way back to subtle differences between the original hard-covered paperback books. Nonetheless, this is an area we intend to review and improve, and that may be, again, some more of the money that's spent in product development, integrating all of those various volume 1, volume 2, new cans database, and all of that.
Will you have a photo box that the turkey tracks?
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not. Yeah, I've kind of put that, we all kind of have on hold for right now, because we don't even know how many people are going to show up, if it's going to be a big, small, or what. So no, I won't. But you can get a hold of me privately if you've got information.
I was thinking is that we'll give you a table as well as Wolf at Luckily Irish for you guys both to have a photo box up and running.
Okay, yeah, well, definitely, yeah, we're eager to get back into that mode. So,
Okay.
yeah. On another tip from a USB-C user, he made a comparison of volume 2 to one of the BCCA's earlier publications covering then current cans, and found several hundred 12-ounce cans that were not picked in volume 2. So that's another area that we will be investigating. And on the international side of things, Dr. Tom's mission is primarily focused on his own collection, which is probably all of them. Most of he's got a huge international collection, so he's still working through that. But with minimal COVID-19 restrictions there, he's working on both new additions as well as upgrades to current entries. Brewery on the 10 over cardboard, the category has been stymied big time by COVID-19. However, plans are being initiated to restart photography in a safe environment. Numerous 10 over cardboards are available for photography, and the workforce is enthusiastic. Everybody's really chomping on the bit to get going on that. As far as the new cans database, it's much less restricted from the COVID-19 restrictions. Their progress is doing really well there. In addition, it's been played. We've now put the new cans database on the USB-C in its original format. Only a portion of the database pictures were initially available, and they're working to fill in all the blanks on that. New efforts following discussions with President Keith. 2 other databases have been discovered and available that might allow us to add Canadian cans and current foreign cans to the USB-C. That would be outstanding. Here's hoping that the available image quality will permit a good USB-C entry. We'll keep you up to date on this potential expansion. And a lot of times we can even take a bad picture and make it halfway decent. We were doing that with a lot of the 10 over cardboards. We've developed some pretty good techniques on that. Best regards, Bruce Gregg.
Okay. I don't know if Casey is still up or not. Okay. We have one question from Mr. Tom Legere regarding product development. Go ahead, Tom.
Okay. I saw on Facebook that somebody was trying to find the Schmidt scenes, and I kind of was surprised that it isn't. I didn't expect it in a supplement, but you can't even get to it just on the volume 2. Is there any way to just post a picture of those relevant pages in there so that folks who are trying to figure out what Schmidt's cans are can at least see that?
Oh, you mean put the check sheet pages in there?
Yeah.
Because it's a supplement in the book.
Yeah, Esslinger and Schmidt and Rainier, they're supplements. Yeah, I could bring that up with Bruce and Jim to see about.
Right, it's in the hard copy book, but there's nothing online that has those. So.
Jim's got his hand up. Let's see what Jim has to say. Jim, go ahead.
Let's see. Am I coming through? Yeah. Okay. That's been a subject for quite a while. It's both Esslinger, Schmidt, and Rainier fall outside of the scope of the normal database. They just don't fit. The whole numbering system doesn't work. So they're going to have to be developed outside of that scope. They're working with Rainier right now to get basically the underlying stuff, and it's still in kind of a rough form. If you've taken a look at the Rainier tab now, you're kind of going to see where we're going to have to go with those cans. Outline the sets, outline the individual cans, and photograph as many as we can. That's going to be another work in progress. Once we know if the Rainier stuff works, then we can expand it and do Esslinger and Schmidt. Because believe me, I have 7-8 cases of Schmidt scenes piled up, ready to photograph for when we do it. And Mike, Mike and I are both going to go nuts before this is all done, but maybe we're already nuts. I don't know.
But I think the question is, can we just, for an interim, publish the checklist in that section so people can at least see those pages from the hard copy book until we get the actual pictures and database up?
I guess we could ask Bruce if there's any way to do it, but I don't see within the given format that we have now how we could post that, unless it's just in the questions and answers or something as a sheet.
Or just a copy. We could maybe just put a copy of the pages out of the book in there for now. That'd be like something that wouldn't be really, it wouldn't really be usable other than just for visual.
Well, Mike, I've told Bruce that he and I need to have a talk after this board meeting. And I think we need to lay out a list of things that we really need to make a priority moving forward.
Okay.
Make sure the whole My Collection thing is, make sure the whole My Collection thing is on that checklist there, Jim.
Yeah, it is. And it's probably pretty far down because until we fix the whole underlying system, and that's what's going to cost us some money. Some of those enhancements just aren't going to happen.
Okay.
We're going to need to, I'm not going to say reinvent the wheel, but we're going to have to come pretty darn close to that.
Okay. Any other questions related to product development before we move on? No. Okay. I didn't see Casey up anymore. I'll cover social media real quick if you don't mind, Mike. So social media, we're doing pretty good now. As I had indicated when we were going through the chair people, is we need to find a replacement for Casey. Well, I'll continue to work with her on trying to get that fulfilled right now. We just don't have any folks that have stepped forward to try to volunteer to fill that position. But I would tell you that the first mark here, the BCCA Facebook business page, she has added myself and Mr. Don Hardy as admin for that page, I believe. Were you on that list as well, Don, right? BCCA Facebook page, we're doing pretty good on. The BCCA closed group page, we're okay on. And I can't thank the moderators enough. During the political times that we were going through, there was a lot of folks that just wanted to kind of stir the pot. And I would tell you the moderators worked hard to try to keep it as hobby friendly as possible and keep the politics out of it. Those guys have been working really hard. So I have to thank them. 50 years of friendship, we're doing okay on. The Instagram, as she had indicated, there's a Mr. Mike Ham that's going to try to help with that. BCCA Twitter, I unfortunately am not much of a Twitter person, so I haven't helped out there. And then the social media, she's working on that. I think she needs a little bit of help with that. And then the BCCA YouTube page, if you got the read aheads, September, we actually had 1,242 minutes of watched video from the BCCA YouTube page, which was pretty good. That was 20 hours and 7 minutes. A lot of that was because of the virtual convention. So that gave folks an opportunity, if they didn't attend the virtual convention, to go back and watch it on the YouTube. It was also then later posted up on the BCCA page. So that was linked to it so that if they watch it from the BCCA page, it was also counted in that time. October as well, there were some good numbers. So the other thing with the social media is we did a Bach beer webinar that we did with Mr. Jim Romine. We have another one coming up here in November. I believe November 19th is the date, if I'm not mistaken. We actually have Mr. Kip Rodlier is going to do the Pabst Breweriana history. He's going to do it right from the Pabst 33 room, which is the guest room, right there at the brewery. So he's got a lot of in with the PAPS folks. And we got nothing but great comments back on the webinar sessions. I'm going to continue to try to drive an effort for folks to be able to view the webinar or either live or post. Everybody has provided some great comments back that this is an opportunity now for them to see stuff that they would have otherwise not been able to see. So that's it for social media. Next on the agenda is strategic planning, Mr. Al Apria. I think you are still up, sir.
I am here. I'm trying to unmute. Can you hear me?
Yep.
So I'm not going to read my report. Basically, we're looking forward on the committee to engage with the current board and officers to see if you know there's a high level of interest in perhaps using what we learned when we created the content that's already been approved by the board to try to develop some initiatives for how the club should operate moving forward. Another thing I'll ask for is if there's any of the kind of newer board members, the guys haven't been around all that long, that are interested in being part of the committee, I'd like to add one. So just reach out to me, you know, separate from this meeting. Let me know what you think you bring to the table, and then I'd bring it back up to the board for approval to add a member. Subject to your questions, that concludes my report. Over.
Okay, I appreciate it, Al. Any questions, strategic planning for Mr. Alapria from the floor here? No, anybody out in Zoom world, strategic planning questions for Mr. Alapria? Nope. Okay, we're gonna move on. Next would have been supplies committee, but Betty wasn't gonna be able to make this, but now that she's handed in her letter of resignation, I didn't know if Jim, did you have anything you wanted to pass on? You're still muted, Jim, sorry.
Okay. No, I don't think I have anything to pass on the supplies.
Sorry, I meant Jim Wolf, sorry, Jim Foley.
No, sales have been minimal.
Okay, yeah.
Other than the office sales, and I didn't see Betty's report to know how office sales have been running in the last couple of months.
It's been minimal. I know that the website online store has been running. We have posted the new BCCA masks are out there. I noticed that there was some where the issues where the ears were a little bit smaller. They were a little bit tighter. I don't know that they're completely uncomfortable, but some. Yeah, so, yeah, I know. So we have added, we purchased 150 BCCA masks with the BCCA emblem on them. The intent was not to make money off them, but to get them out to the membership so that they could wear them to go to shows and things like that. We've actually, I think, sold nearly 60 or 70 in the first week. So we're done pretty good so far. Beer Dave.
I think we're still going to need them even in time for convention, because there'll be people that, even though we'll have a vaccine or whatever, people will still be wearing these masks for quite a while after.
Yeah. So I will work with, so Marcia Butterball was the one that ordered the masks. She worked through what originally was from a previous group that had ordered them. She noticed that there was a little bit of a difference. She said, if there's complaints, we'll work with the vendor or do whatever we have to try to resolve the issue.
I'd like you to enlarge it.
Yeah, okay.
Not very big. I mean, I've worn this to my gym for the last week and they keep saying, what does that say?
Yeah. So any other questions related to supplies? I don't want to beat a dead horse on us trying to get an online store going other than what we currently have
I
available.
think one thing that we can do as officers or whatever, we can encourage some of these bigger chapters to purchase stuff for their chapters to sell at their own shows, so we don't have to count on Betty, Don, Jim to do. I mean, the Michigan chapter bought 30 totes and 2 cases of books, and we sell them at our shows and they're available. That might help increase some sales without a lot of other shows going on. And people are having shows and they will have shows. It just, they're not going to count on Don bringing stuff.
Yep. Okay. Any other questions related to supplies? Nope. Moving on to website committee, Mr. Danny Boro.
Hey, it's good to be back. Not much to add. Going to be implementing the new membership whole software program. We're going to get membership cards to be downloadable. So there'll be some pretty good news. So besides that, everything's just in the read ahead. If you got any questions, hit me with them.
Any website questions for the floor? Anybody in Zoom have a website question? Nope. Okay.
I do have
Awesome
one.
sauce.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I do have one quick one. Did we get that figured out on the digitized magazines? Because Clayton and I are going to start working on those again and putting them into the Google Drive. Have you figured out how to put those on? You said you had an issue or something with it.
I couldn't access the Google Drive yet. So
I think you. Okay. Well, 'cause I'd sent you a thing on that quite a while back. So
okay.
we'll
Yeah, we'll get them up. That's no big deal.
Okay, so moving on to gift management. Would you like to read Mr. Cotterman's comments?
Yes. Tim Olson, BCCA 28197, just donated a pretty nice Arid's extra flat top to the club. The committee is wrapping up the pricing of the recently donated cans that will soon be ready to launch. Selling the cans by way of the venues discussed during our previous meetings. The sales will be preceded by an e-blast, which will soon be ready to publish. It's expected that it will happen by mid-November. Despite not yet having fully launched, a small number of cans have already been sold as a result of unsolicited but favorable offers. Sales to date add up to $1,127.90 minus $41.75 shipping. Records being kept to the amount of each sale, the buyer's name, the shipping amount, if any. He says he's going to miss this meeting, but will gladly address any questions or comments that arise during the meeting in a timely manner. John Tallman.
Okay.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, go ahead.
A small number have already been sold as a result of unsolicited but favorable offers. Does that produce any skepticism in the process of making sure everybody has a shot at them?
I don't know what that process is. Has not been explained, but I know it's not a single source. I think he's been working with others that have helped him go through that process. So I don't think it's just, hey, it's a buddy of his, he's going to give him some favoritism.
Right.
So
We don't want that shadow over this committee.
right.
You know, if one person is helping them price them and then that person is actually buying them, then does that put a shadow over putting it on a site for everybody to bid the thing up or whatever? And I know we gave them leeway.
I can't answer that question specifically because I don't have the full details behind that.
I
So,
think we should check into that just to keep that shadow away.
okay. Any other questions related to gift management? Any questions out there in the Zoom world related to gift management? No? Okay, we're moving on. Advertising. Go ahead, since Mark Crane is not here.
Advertising committee. This or the November-December 2020 issue is the last issue with the $50 rate for quarter page chapter ads. The rate for these ads will return to the $85 price in 2021. If the chapter that placed any 2020 issue had to cancel their show due to COVID-19 restrictions, they will receive a 50% discount for the same show ad in 2021. When the chapter requests an ad, they will need to let me know what was the case. Or no, they'll need to let me know if that was the case. I'm asking all chapters that wish to place an ad in the BCCA magazine to contact me at least 45 days prior to the cover date of the magazine to secure a place for your ad. That's it.
Any questions on the floor related to advertising? Any questions related to advertising out in the Zoom community? Okay, I don't see any. Nominating committee, Ms. Paula.
The only thing I have to add to my report is if you know of someone who you believe is a good candidate to run for the board or go through the chairs, I would appreciate you contacting me because I will be contacting people now for the next couple of months, as will the nominating committee. End of report.
Any questions related to nominating from the floor? Any questions related to nominating committee from the Zoom community? Don, go ahead.
Didn't you say that you have to do a lot sooner this year because of the
Yes,
situation?
because of the fact that convention is in August this year, in fact, the middle of August almost, we will be moving up the dates this year just to get in all of our time periods for the 90 days notice for when we're going to be having our meeting. I would anticipate the Meeting will be sometime the end of April, 1st of May, before the board meets in May, so that we can get all of those people nominated to be able to run. So it's a little bit shorter time period again this year for everything, but also for nominating to find people to run for the board.
Okay, any questions then for the nominating committee? Okay, I'm going to open up for a couple minutes. If you have something, please be quick as much as possible. Anything that was missed that you felt still needed to be discussed? I want to provide everybody an opportunity. Anything on the floor? All right, anything out in Zoom world that we may have missed that you feel this is an opportunity to discuss while we have this audience together? No. Okay. I would like to thank everybody. I'm going to open it up for announcements, but be very brief. The only thing I would ask is that if you have an announcement, it's basically show related so that others know or don't know about a show or anything else pertinent to the BCCA. Again, I want to thank everybody for taking an opportunity to be involved in the business of the BCCA and the sausage making. I think this is important and it's critical. I will try to be as proactive along with the officers throughout the period. In other words, don't hold your breath and wait for the next meeting. Please, if you have an issue, please bring it up to us. We have the capability of conducting actions without having to wait for a board meeting. So if it's something important enough, we can make it happen without actually having to call a board meeting. We can do it virtually now and not have to worry about it, okay? So, Beer Dave.
Nice job with your first official meeting.
Okay, I appreciate it. Okay, any announcements from out in Zoom world that you'd like to make? Nope, I don't see anything. Any announcements from the floor here? There's two great shows coming up next weekend. One is at Fort Wayne. The other one is the new Watsonville show out in California. I hope to see some folks there. I will be at the new Watsonville show out in California. Beer Dave. Beer Dave has made a motion to adjourn. Anybody second the motion? Mr. Clayton Emery has made a motion to adjourn. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.